In the last video I looked at creating custom alpha textures and showed that you can create alphas for other things than just scene blends, such as dirt wear and grass patches, etc. Now, the way I add these to the course is I create a scene blend texture in the same way that you would for a normal scene blend, but instead of path mapping the texture as a normal scene blend, I use planar mapping. There are two issues that cause a bit of problems with this. One is, although APCD has no issues at all with this, Lynx doesn't like you using too many. I don't know whether it's either planar mappings or the actual amount of multiples you use, but if you use too many, what you'll find is the textures won't display properly, so you need to keep it as limited as you can. And the other issue is if it's on the side of a slope, because you create a multiple that's going to be applied to anywhere. If you apply it to the side of a slope, a steep slope, although APCD again will display it perfectly well, when it goes into Lynx can't cope with it, so you have to actually map planar maps on the side of slopes at the same angle as the slope if you want it to display. So you need to be aware of these two issues, but for the majority of the time it's fairly good, and most fairways are reasonably on the flat side. So I'm going to show you now how I go about doing this. So the first thing to do is create a scene blend texture in the usual way. So I go to terrain, face, find our fairway. If I clone this fairway texture, and I'll call it Dirtware 1. Set it to scene blend, and now I need to choose the alpha, which in this case is AK Dirtware Alpha. And if I go to Photoshop, this is the actual alpha I'm going to use, and the divots are black and the grass is the white area on the alpha. So because black comes before white on a scene blend texture, I need to choose the divot texture as my first texture for texture 1 here. So I'm going to add a dirt texture. And the fairway texture, which I think is DP fairway on this course, yeah, as texture 2. Okay, and I need to set the terrain properties of the two textures. Now, I usually set divots as fairway because I don't really like punishing people for hitting a good drive and landing on a fairway. But you could actually set it to a divot texture by creating a separate texture, which I have in this case called divot. So I can actually set this to divot, and texture 2 can be set to the fairway, DP fairway. I can now rename this Dirtware 1 as well, so I can see it on my texture list, because it won't actually use this display name because it's a scene blend, so I can call it whatever I like, so that I can see it up here on the list easy. Dirtware 1. So I've created my texture. If I now apply it to that area and deselect, you'll actually see that divot marks have appeared. Now they're not in scale because we haven't yet planar mapped them, but you can see that something's changed here. We've got pale and dark markings here. So I now need to create a planar map and a multiple for this. So if I go to mappings, new mapping, planar, I'll call this Dirtware 1. add it. Now this is going to control the size of the actual divots themselves. So, right, let's try scaling it now. There we go, it's moving now. So at the moment it's scaling the whole texture up. So let's create the multiple. New mapping. Multiple. It's been ages since I've done this. It's showing really, isn't it? Dirtware 1. So we add the multiple Dirtware 1. And we select our Dirtware 1. Planar, which is going to be up here. Okay. Add 2. And if I select now Planar Dirtware, one, and I scale it, it will just scale up the divot. There we go, that's better. So now we're just getting the divot scaled up. And we're only seeing some of them. But that's creating the divots. And the dirt texture, which I've got scaled to planar dirt, which is a bit too detailed at the moment. If I go into the multiple again, Dirtware 1, the planar dirt is controlling the size of the dirt texture. So if I change it to a default, it's blurry because it's too magnified. So you just need to set your own planar for each, for the grass and for the dirt, to get the right scale so it looks good. We've now got some divots on the fairway. And to add more, we simply select the texture, apply our Dirtware 1, and apply our multiple Dirtware 1 to it. So if I add multiple Dirtware 1, we've got more divots. Let's add another one here, Dirtware. Add 2, and there's the divots. And we can create a 2 and a 3 to give different variations around and just mix them up. And the same with grass patches if we want a pale blobby grass, dried out grass area, say there, we just add an alpha, exactly the same, set the grass texture, and we've got a patch without having to add new textures and scene blends. And what you can do with this is save a lot of memory, because you only see a tiny portion of this dirt texture. You can get away with using a 256 size dirt texture. Just take if you've got 1024 texture, just cut out a quarter of it, use that as your texture, because you're only ever going to see a small part. Obviously you can still blend the edges to make it seamless if you want a good job, but most of the time you won't even notice because such a small part's being used. And then it's just a matter of changing the planar for your dirt to the new size texture. If you started with 1024, if you go to a 256 texture, you'll need to do 4 times the planar. So in your uniform scale it down 4 times the same. So if it was set on 16, set it to 4, and it'll be in the same scale as it was, but you'll use a lot less memory, because a 1024 texture takes up over 3 meg, and 256 texture, I don't know, a couple of 100k, very little. So you'll save bags of memory by doing this, rather than creating a separate 1024 grass texture with dirt wear on it. The other advantage of this is, of course, you can create another mapping and you can rotate these round, scale them to different sizes, so you've got much more flexibility by using this. If you created a new texture with these dirt wear marks on them, you're stuck with the mow strips going in the direction they're going. You can't suddenly rotate it round, or your mow lines are going to go wrong. But with an alpha, you can rotate the alpha around. If I select this alpha, planar alpha, planar dirtwear 1, if I select this and go to rotate, let's go to the Z axis, I can rotate the divots around, but the mow stripes of the fairway are staying as they are. So I'm completely free to move the divots around without affecting the actual look of the texture above. So it has a lot of flexibility.